Hello, welcome to episode 59 of Shampoo and Booze. We are a podcast about Airbnb and short-term rentals at shampooandbooze.com. We are Ryan and Ashley, sisters who run Airbnbs and want to help you run yours. Every week we cover topics about the design and operation of short-term rentals. Send us your questions with an audio file or written to shampooandbooze@gmail.com. And we'll do our best to cover the topics you care about. We also are available to give design and listing advice for your personal situation. Check out our services page at notperf.com to book a time with us. We have had an amazing response to our giveaway for a free on-air design and listing advice for your Airbnb. We will be choosing a winner and airing that podcast so soon, so keep your eye out for that. That'll be super fun. And this week we're covering your questions. We've received a few questions over voicemail and written that we thought would be really helpful to just answer on air. So that's our episode this week.
Okay, let's play the first voicemail.
Hello, Ryan and Ashley. This is Kurt. I'm a neighbor of yours down in Wintergreen, Virginia. Really enjoy your show, especially the last one where you contrasted renting out an entire house versus sharing a room. I'm getting ready to go live here in about a month. And I had a question concerning the rates that you charge. I think I saw on your Airbnb listing that you charged the same whether it was 2 people or 6 people. I'm tempted to charge sort of a tiered, one price for 2 people and maybe 50% more, if it's 4 people. It just seems like there's going to be a lot more cleaning involved. Anyway, I was wondering if you could give your thoughts on best way to price in terms of the number of people staying. Thanks again. Really love the show. Bye.
Okay, so that is Kurt. And I do want to preface this by saying he did send us some photos of his spot, and what's cool about his place is from what I understand, his place is shared, kind of like your apartment, but he basically has like a house or a condo, and he has a basement apartment that like walks out into the yard and has a private entrance. So it is shared, it is connected to his spot. It's not like ours that are like their own houses.
So it's like a private suite.
Yeah, I think pricing is a whole other episode. That being said, it is an interesting topic to figure out. And Jay and I talk about this all the time. And we talked about it since the beginning too. Do you charge for more than 2 people? Or do you, depending on your space, do you charge for more than one person? It's like the old motel style. They're like $30 for a room. This is probably like the 1940s I'm talking about right now.
I know,
but
I'm like $30 for a room.
$30 a room. I feel like I saw that growing up. But like, it's $30. And then in tiny writing, it's like for one person. But for 2 people, it's like way more,
Exactly, yes.
So the way we thought about it, for us, okay, we have separate houses. There are, basically each house and each rental, even the new one that's about to go online, it's 6 people. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 people can sleep in each bedroom. And for us, we were kind of like, for those situations, we're just like, it's the price for up to 6 people. For a couple, it's the same as 6 people. That's just how it is. It's this, the cleaning fee is the same. I charge, I pay my cleaners a flat fee. So if it's 2 people and they barely touch the house, they get paid the same amount as it's 6 people and there was a dog and there were babies, Number one, the reason we did that was as people who rent places, we preferred it that way. Like, we were like, well, we just want it one price. Like, I don't want them to be like, oh, it's 2 people, it's more money, Oh, it's 4 people, you're there with 2 other people, it's more, it's way more money. We felt that we were competing better with our competition in our area because a lot of people do that here.
It's almost like hidden costs, right? It's like it's like you see the booking one way, and then when you start adding your people, it's like suddenly it's like $600, and it feels sneaky.
It feels sneaky, and I understand why people do it. I absolutely do. You're like 2 people, the house barely gets touched. I mean, for some people it doesn't barely get touched, but compared to 6 people, yeah, it's more cleaning, more laundry, more wear and tear on the house, et cetera, et cetera. We just liked it better that way. The other reason was we thought people are always, this may or may not be true, people are always going to say there's only 2 people. And then they're going to cram as many people as they can in that house for the price. Because I know people do that. And I know I've heard from other, cabin owners in our area. Oh, people do that all the time. And then we went to the house and we had to write them a bill basically to charge for the. I'm just I don't even know how I would do that.
Like where would you even start?
Yeah, and the other thing is, at this point in our rental lives, we don't check on people. We are just check in, here's the code, checkout's this time, enjoy yourself. If you need something, message us. I'm not old school Ryan where I'm meeting people there when they get there, which is...
That is adorable. I still love that story. You're like, hi, I'm here in nice clothing. I love it so much.
Well, we were new to the business. We literally were people are going to trash our house. They're going to burn it down. I really felt that.
They have to know we're real people.
I really did. But yeah, so I don't like policing people. We don't charge an extra dog fee. We allow dogs. They are messy. They shed hair everywhere. And it's 60 to 70% of our bookings are people with dogs. Great. Love it.
Probably because so many other people bar dogs. It's interesting what you're saying. It hadn't occurred to me that you're paying your cleaners a flat fee, because basically what you're saying is it comes out in the wash.
Hey, we're going to do a laundry episode. Nope. I'm sure you're going to have lots of puns.
I can't wait. I can't wait for my laundry puns. But basically, what you're saying is, your cleaners are going to have light days and they're going to have heavy days, but they know that they're getting the same amount of money. And so it's almost like the light days, the light days make up for the heavy days, but it all comes out. And I think what's interesting is if you were paying your cleaners hourly, you might feel differently about how people book. But then the other thing is, for instance, one of my setups at some point was I would actually have to set up an extra bed before someone arrived if they had a third person, or even four, 2 extra people. And so I could see an argument for basically saying, if you're going to add a third person, I'm going to charge you for the third person in a 2-person space, because I have to basically rearrange a room, for that setup. Whereas before I wouldn't have to do that at all and everything would be normal. So I could kind of see those being other factors in charging differently. But I really appreciate that you charge this flat rate, not just for your cleaners, but also for your guests. It's like they know exactly what they're expecting.
So I wanted to ask you, because your situation is kind of similar to Kurt's, where you're in a shared space. It is, essentially for 2 people. And I think at one point when you kind of changed it, where you're like, it's just going to be for 2 people.
Yes,
we kind of talked about that before. And if there is someone with a kid or a teenager or whatever, there is an extra cost. It's 3 people? That's an extra cost, because it's, more people are in the house, more people using the bathroom, more people to clean up after, and the bed arrangement. So is that what you were thinking in your shared space?
Yeah. So I essentially eliminated the third person option at some point. I was just like, it's a queen for 2 people or 1 person. And if it's 1 person, it's the same fee as 2 people. It's the same room. It's the same amount of work. I think I've seen that as well. It's like, this is how much it is for 1 person plus an additional person. It's an extra $30. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Just charge for the room. I think charging for the room is really ideal from a like customer standpoint. But yeah, I eliminated the third person option, particularly because it just got cramped. It was one thing if it was a teenager or a kid, it kind of felt like no big deal. But if it was a whole other adult, it really did change how everyone could use the space, because it meant that they would have to be in a more public space in a sleeping situation. And I feel like very few people actually want that. There are a lot of young people or even just families who like didn't really care. It would be like a mom and her two sons looking at colleges in the area, and they didn't care. They didn't care where like the youngest teenage son was sleeping, But for me as a host, it just felt like too much work, actually. Like I wanted to, as a host, have setups that were pretty low maintenance. And setting up an extra bed is kind of a pain in the butt. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to stress about it. I'm just going to make it 2 people, and that's it. And I rarely have people be like, can we bring a third? I almost never had that happen. So that's how I thought about it.
So my question for Kurt, if he wants to write back to us or send us another message, it looks like your guest suite is a lot like Ashley's, where it's like a queen or king bed. Essentially, it's a 2-person bed. And there's not much room for anybody else. So if you are just having a 2-person little like bungalow suite thing, maybe that's just the price. It's like there really isn't room for anybody else. I mean, look, we have houses that fit 6 people, and people will still ask for more people. They're like, we're going to have 8 to 10 people. And I mean, a lot of times we just have to be like, there's not enough room. Like, there's not enough room inside. You could pitch a tent outside, but they're like, not enough bathrooms, like there are houses. We often say there are many houses in our county. They just don't want to pay for it. We're like, there are houses that sleep 16, 17, they're made for that. They've got bunk beds all over the place. Every single room has a freaking bunk bed in it,
Well, and the enticing thing about your properties is they're beautiful, right? And so the houses, so. I think so.
Yeah.
But I'm biased. The houses often that can accommodate that many people are either way overpriced for what they are. They literally can just hold a crap load of people, or they're like gorgeous mansions. I mean, that's what it's like in New England. It's like if you can fit more than 10 people, it's like an estate. And you're like, oh God, like I don't need that for my like family vacation get together, So
I think it's the price too.
Yes.
I mean, look, not to get totally off topic here, but I mean, we've had multiple people be like, can we have our wedding there? And you're like, no, you cannot have your wedding in my backyard because it's, X dollars a night on a Friday and Saturday. Because they're like, we only want to pay this much for our wedding. And you're like,
yeah.
There's a reason wedding venues cost a lot of money, because it's wear and tear and staff.
100%. 100%. People just don't know. They don't know things like that. Bless their hearts. Bless their little hearts.
I mean, I get it. They're like, oh, we'll just rent an Airbnb and we'll like have like a 50-person wedding in the backyard. And you're like, yeah, no. Like,
you're like, yeah, except where did all those people use the bathroom?
Where do they use the bathroom? Where do they park?
Where do they even park? Yeah.
Just like, you have a caterer coming in. Like, just so many times we've had to be like, no, but there are great venues in our area. They don't want to pay the money. They're like, well, we don't want to pay $5,000. And you're like, okay, just elope.
Just elope. That's anyway. That's our design advice this week. Just elope.
It's cheaper.
All right. So awesome. Thank you for sending us that question, and feel free to respond if you would like.
Yeah, we love it.
And we also got another email from Shiri.
Okay, Shiri was saying after watching Stay Here on Netflix, which is a show, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on welcome packs or gifts for your renters. Is it worth it? What kinds of things should we have in them on a budget? to make sure the stay is more enjoyable. They're finishing up a renovation, so it sounds like they're on a budget. I get that 100%. I'm living that life right now.
Yes, scrappers for life.
Yeah, so it sounds like they have a lake cabin in Maine. So number one, when you're done with your renovation, I want to see all the photos.
We want to see the pictures.
I want to see your listing. So first of all, Stay Here is a show on Netflix. Okay, so it's funny because there's a few shows on Netflix. There's Stay Here and then there's Instant Hotel. Instant Hotel is an Australian show. I think it's on Netflix. I forget where I watched it, but everyone should watch it. It's totally dramatic reality TV, but it's totally worth it because you're like, how much do they charge a night in Australia? That's insane. They're like, it's 700 Australian dollars a night. You're like, what? It's crazy.
What?
Stay Here, I don't know. There's another, I think Stay Here is the one that I watched before where I got kind of pissed at it, where I think it's Stay Here.
You told me about this one.
Yeah, so I watched it and it's great because I love watching shows about, hospitality and renovation. I'm like, yes, that's
HGTV.
HGTV. I'm like,
HGTV.
oh my God. So okay, I get it. But I think the thing that bugged me about Stay Here was people will be like, I have this awesome houseboat that I want to renovate. And then Stay Here, the show, comes in and renovates it for them, pays for everything. And they're like, no, you have the best, rental in the area. And you're like, of course you do. You guys just dropped $100K for this. Of course they have the best place. Someone else paid for it.
Right.
I'm like, you're going to have the best place if a TV show comes in with a designer and a expert and does it for you. Of course, it's amazing.
And you get the publicity around it potentially.
Oh,
yeah.
So anyway, I was upset with Stay Here because I'm like,
you're like, it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real. So anyway, the question really is
about welcome packages or gifts.
Right. So my thing is, number one, when we first started, before we even started, I had this fantasy about I'm going to laugh at myself.
I love this. I can't even wait what it is.
What? A basket of local honey. Look, we have bees in our backyard, so we have honey coming out our ears sometimes. Right. Honey and a local bottle of wine and soap made from the lady down the street and
goats.
Just you're it's just cute, local. You're advertising your area. Okay, number one, that stuff is expensive. Yeah. Right? You're yeah, it's local and you're paying more for it because somebody actually made this and it didn't come from Walmart.
Yeah. Okay. That's a $40 gift basket.
Right. And you're okay, a bottle of wine, if it's nice and it's local, it's expensive. Okay, it's unsustainable. So hands down, you're in the summer, now we have 2 rentals, we're about to have 3. I have people checking in almost every other day. Sometimes it's every day when it's you're what am I going to do? I'm going to put that stuff out for everybody. Just, if you're popular, it is a luxury problem to not be able to do anything like that. What you want is what we talked about before, amenities. You want to have the basic amenities that people need. They don't need a bottle of wine. They don't need local chocolate. They don't, because you know what? They're going to go out into your neighborhood and go out into your town or county and go pay money for those things.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of the tourist economy. Go to the wine bar,
And you can direct them to those things easily. If you make those things clear and accessible to them, check out, I always send people to my local sandwich shop that I love, and I love the owners. It's completely locally owned. And I'm go get sandwiches there, or go check out this amazing wine bar. They have incredible food, And so I feel there are ways that you can make people feel welcome to your area without necessarily giving them gifts. One caveat I have to that, though, is it sounds like they're just getting started. And I understand the fantasy, as you said, of wanting to welcome people for those first few reviews. But what's really interesting is I've had the experience of reading through Airbnb reviews and having them be like, they gave us this amazing welcome basket. And I'm like, I didn't get a welcome basket. I'm like, I didn't get like whatever, like fancy chocolates on my pillow, And because as you become more seasoned, you're like, ain't nobody got time for that.
Right.
And so I understand the desire to sort of court people, as it were, to sort of like help people feel really welcome. But I really think what you're saying, Ryan, of like, if the amenities are there, the local map and guide is there, and you just go out of your way to be a really good host, I think that is much more, will present itself more sustainably, not just in your guests' experience, but in their reviews, than like a little thing, a little gift.
Right. Like, the most important thing besides like a welcome basket, like you're right, those shows are funny. Like the Instant Hotel, they always have these crazy baskets and you're just like, you don't do that for every guest. It's too expensive. Make sure, just like we said with all our amenities podcast, you got to have coffee with cream and sugar. Like, that doesn't sound very fancy. Have some nice coffee. Have local coffee. That's amazing.
That feels fancy compared to many Airbnbs.
Right.
The other thing I would add, which I never did, but I like the idea of, is, but it's actually quite simple. So my experience is, because it was my home, I actually had a fair amount of people give me gifts.
Right.
Like, I had someone stay from Australia who gave me this little, like, clip-on koala bear, or I had this sweet couple stay with me from China who gave me like jewelry from their area, So it's like all of these little sweet like house presents that I think a lot of different people travel with, actually, like, so if they're on a longer length traveling excursion, I think they call that a trip.
Excursion.
They would give me these little house gifts, and I think something I wished I had done more of was like have a little sticker from my area, or have a little fridge magnet or something to reciprocate, to be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, here's a thing to remember your trip here by. So that is one way of like reciprocating those little house gifts. I was surprised. I couldn't believe how many people left things for me. I was like, you're paying to stay at my house. Like,
right. You're like, you left me money. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm like, but I think it's because they were staying in my house, it felt like they were being hosted in a different way. So
I think, like overall, what counts is your communication, the things you have available to make people comfortable, nice sheets, nice towels. Like, those are the things people want. And like you said, to point people towards the cool local places where they can get wine and soap and coffee and a nice meal. Like, you don't have to provide those things for them. Like you were saying, one of the things that I always think is a cute thing to do, which I haven't done either, but it's like on my list to do, is to make a little postcard. Like, make a custom little postcard, or that they can like bring with them and send to someone, like, oh, we stayed in this cute place and here's the postcard from it. It's almost
I love that idea.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, in like the 1950s when you stayed at a motor court, they'd be like, this is our motor court, and they'd like mail it. I stayed in this motor court in, blah, 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 Iowa,
Oh my God, that is even a term, motor court.
A motor court. A pleasure court.
Before it became a motel.
Exactly. So yeah, I thought about doing that. So that, or just
That's great.
Look, it sounds like you're on a lake in Maine, so you must have postcards of the local area.
Yes.
Go buy a
or
handful.
Like find cool vintage postcards. And
exactly.
Yes, I love
I
that.
totally want to do that. It's on my list of stuff to do. Like, once I'm done with this renovation, I'm like, oh, I really want to do cute little postcards. I think that would be so fun.
I think that's adorable. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Shiri.
Yeah, thanks for sending it in.
That's great. And we had another question from Daisy.
Yes.
asking, it's basically a two-part question, both a little bit unrelated. So one question was, they have a stove and a stovetop, but the actual oven portion doesn't work in their Airbnb. And so they're wondering if that matters. Do we care whether the oven works or not?
Okay, so she's saying the stovetop where you would like fry an egg, that works, but the oven that you'd like bake brownies, that doesn't work.
And the question is, yay or nay? Do we care?
Okay, so I'm going to answer this very definitively. Yes, it does matter. 100% matters. Yes, you should have fully working appliances. Everywhere. All appliances should be 100% functional.
I completely agree. I also, it's interesting because the difference between your Airbnb and mine is people actually cook, bake, microwave, do all sorts of things in your space. And I would say way less people do that in mine. So if I didn't have a working oven, like probably most people wouldn't ever even, I'm not sure I've ever had anyone turn my oven on the entire time.
And you're like, I've never turned it on either, so it doesn't matter.
I'm actually not sure it works. But I completely agree. I think it should work. I think if you have an appliance that isn't working, like, what's wrong with it? Does that mean that it's like really old?
Right.
Does that mean like there are other things in the kitchen that aren't working? So it should be functional for sure.
Right. And actually, I will preface this by saying Daisy is in major metropolitan city. So it's similar to what you're saying. She has probably amazing world-renowned restaurants right around the block. Like, I totally get that you're like, why is anyone baking in my oven? Like, it doesn't make sense. But however, look, like, someone might come to stay for Thanksgiving and they're visiting their family down the road and they're like, I gotta bake a thing for the whatever. Like, you never know. And then they go to use it and they're like, oh, it literally doesn't work.
That is exactly, it's kind of like the surprise factor. Like, it might not be something someone would ever think to ask, does your oven work?
Right.
Because they would just assume that it does.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my, like, hilarious thing is I don't have a microwave in my apartment, so I have to have a working oven.
Right.
It's like if I want to just heat up leftovers or something, like, that's the option. And I'm upfront about that. Like, I don't have a microwave,
Well, the other thing, too, about being in a major city is you have Craigslist. And you have a lot of people renovating and, like, moving. And you can get a gorgeous,
yes,
almost brand new stainless steel, probably a Jen Air, for like $100. So have it replaced.
Just go for it. Yeah,
just do it. Get a nice one. It looks gorgeous in the photos. It works.
Exactly. Like, that's one of those no-brainers for me. It's like, it's not gonna cost an arm and a leg.
Right.
It'll look nice.
You'll
probably be happier. Just do it.
I understand the question, but no. Yeah. Okay, so the second part of the question is, she says this. Also, and I don't know why, but I'm insisting on getting a used karaoke machine to put in the Airbnb when I do get up running. I thought it would be a fun option since I have room for 4 to 6 guests. Yes or no? I also have a very definitive answer.
I can't wait to hear what you're going to say.
So the other thing that I do know about Daisy is she's in a major city, and I think she lives downstairs from the apartment that she's going to rent. So what's my answer going to be? You want people at 3 a.m. drunk from partying, in your city, turning on the karaoke machine? No, you don't.
Negative.
If this were a separate house and it seemed like a cool, fun, like, game room type thing to have, like, I could see a karaoke machine in, like, a finished basement that had a pool room and, like, a little bar, in the suburbs that you don't live in. You don't live in that house. I could see something like that,
I totally agree. I I think because I am not a karaoke machine person, if I were to see one in the corner of my Airbnb, I would be like, huh? I would like, I don't know. I wouldn't be like, that really upgraded my situation. I would be like, that feels weird. But I love your suggestion of like, if it was a different scenario, I'd be like, whoa, cool, fire that thing up.
Yeah, I mean, and the other part about it too is it's kind of like the other answer we had about the welcome basket. People are coming to your city to go out. So you don't need to provide a fun, cool karaoke bar type thing in your apartment because they're going to go out and do that. Like, you're in a major city, like a huge city that people visit to go out to bars and to go out and have fun. So they're going to go out and do that. Like, if there's a karaoke place down the street that you love, send them there. Like,
Yeah.
Do not be like, come home from your friend's wedding at 2 a.m. and turn the karaoke machine on while
That's
I'm
exactly
asleep
it.
downstairs.
Yeah, like basically adding a karaoke machine is like further encouraging a group of people to get rowdy. Like that
At
is
any time.
100% what that is. And if you're into that and you want to go join them, get the karaoke machine.
Yeah, but I'm going to say 99% no. Do not do that.
I'm gonna what you said.
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, those are the questions we got. They're great questions. So glad people emailed us and sent us voicemail.
Send us more.
Send us more. Thanks for listening to Shampoo and Booze at shampooandbooze.com. As usual, you can send us your questions of an audio file or written to shampoo and booze, the word and, at gmail.com. And we'll do our best to cover all the topics you care about. And don't forget our design and listing services. You guys are going to see an awesome video example of our services very soon. Our services page is at notperf.com because we're calling ourselves Not Perfect Design to book your design advice session. Okay, see you next time. Bye.
Bye.